So I'm big bummed today because we are making a bar that last year I named Champagne Problems, and I wore my cardigan, one of them, for the video. And I was so hoping that the red cardigan would be in for this because, hello, obviously, it's a champagne bar. Probably not naming it Champagne Problems again this year because it's different and, whatever. But I don't have my red cardigan. I'm very sad. I don't know that I'm ever going to get it. Maybe by Valentine's Day. That's apropos. That would work too. I like talking about my clothes, you guys. I'm sorry if it bothers you. We're making a champagne bar today. I'll tell you more about it in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 207 of 365 days of soap. And as I said, today we're making the champagne bar, because this is for one of my wholesale accounts, and this is her January soap. Because it makes sense. Champagne on New Year's, all of that jazz. Yes. Now, this particular process, it's not a difficult pour by any stretch of the imagination. It does require a lot of prep work in the beginning, getting all the curlicues ready to go, and honestly, it takes more time to cut than anything else. So let's go to the video, and we will talk about the champagne bar and the process and all of the things, where we usually do in the video. So you want to know my champagne problem right now? Cool. Glad you can't respond and stop me, because I already told you my champagne problem, and that thing is called no red cardigan. That is my insignificant champagne problem. Also, I have another problem, and that thing is called I popped a glove, like one of those guys. And so I have one gloved hand and one not gloved hand. Also, I have a third champagne problem, and that thing is called my camera dipped during this time, and I was filming on the other side of the counter, and I didn't know it, so the angle is real weird. That's probably the only champagne problem that you give a shit about. So there's that. But what I'm doing right now is I am taking a whole bunch of melt and pour that I, poured out in different colors and layers. It's a melt and pour recipe that I've made from scratch, and I've showed you how to do so, like a lot. And I only let it set up for I don't know, maybe 10 minutes after I pour the last layer, so it's still very malleable. And then I just take the normal little acrylic soap shaver thing. You saw the thing. I got that from Alex's custom soap stamps, because he's great at all of the acrylic things. And I shaved off little pieces and then molded it into little curlicues. Now, the cool thing about my melt and pour recipe is that it is all still natural and vegan and palm free and all the jazz. And so it is 100% fine to use in, for this particular client, which is a vegan, palm-free, eco-friendly soap shop. Oh, speaking of that, in the next couple weeks, we're actually going to be doing something kind of freaking fun. And that kind of freaking fun thing is called we are interviewing each other. So me for her socials and her for a YouTube video, and asking, we're doing a collab, you guys, me and a drop in the ocean. We're doing that thing. Just got to figure out a way to put that into the Grey's Anatomy footage. Honestly, I'll probably not put it into the Grey's Anatomy footage and put it in at like a back to basics, because we will likely be talking about business building for that. And so you can see that then. But yeah, these are her burrs. And so that's super cool. And once all the curlicues have been made with the melt and pour soap, so this is a hybrid soap. Probably should have led with that. Haven't talked about it yet. This is a hybrid soap. So melt and pour plus cold process equals hybrid soap. We're going to make the cold process, and then we're going to pour it and put these things in it. So yeah, look out for a cool collab between me and a drop in the ocean. And I'm telling you about that, right now because I'm making her bar. And also I'll probably continue to hype it throughout the whole thing. Also, I would like to apologize for how weird and fast this ends up being. But it actually takes a fair amount of time to put all these guys into the soap. Now, for this particular recipe, I actually doubled up the batch. And so what that means is I have 2 inches of cold processed soap hanging out in this slab mold, which means I will be able to, if a normal little slab that I show you guys, right, gets 12 bars, because we doubled it up and we have 2 inches instead of 1, I get 24 bars out of that, which will mean that all of the little melt and pour curlicues in there will be cut in half, and the real pattern will be revealed, in the cut in the middle. But one of the problems, as I'm sure you can see with all of this, is the soap batter, while it's not super thick, it's also not going into the little crevices the way that I would like within the little curlicues there. I've said curlicues like 4 times at this point, and it might be the wrong word, and I don't care. I don't care. You know what I'm talking about. So in order to fix that, I'm just going to take some of the soap batter from the other side of the mold and just kind of pour it into the middle of these guys. Now, an alternate way to do this would be to take your soap batter and just pour, I don't know, half of it into the mold, and then put all the curlicues in, and then pour the remaining soap batter over the rest of this. You can go back like 365 days, because I'm pretty sure I released this on the same day-ish last year. Just, a little bit different. And basically I just talked about my Christmas presents and did this weird flex with my cardigan. Because I got that guy. I got 2 of those guys last Christmas. It was amazing. Still waiting on the red cardigan. Which, that's not I'm not throwing shade at Mr. Soap and Clay or anybody else. I properly ordered that for myself, back in November. I don't have it yet. It said something like 12 weeks to ship. So I might get it by February, as I've already said. But anyway, I did it that way. I did this soap that way by putting half of the soap batter in, and then putting the curlicues in, and then pouring the rest of the soap batter on top, to really ensure that there are no air pockets. There are no areas of, there's no zero escape areas inside all of these things. So that's another way to do it. I didn't do it that way this time because, if something works right the first time, why would you keep doing it that way? Let's do something different. It's a joke. Last year was not the first time that I've made a hybrid soap. And usually when something works right the first time, I stick with it until I get bored. So that's where I'm at with this one. I was bored. And I wanted to try something else. And also, hey, new content. Another way to skin a cat, which is such a gross say. Who skins cats? What the hell is that? How does that make any kind of sense? Why is that something that people just say? What is the origin of this? Excuse me, sir. I have questions. And I'm sure somebody in the comments is actually going to answer those questions because you guys are great at knowing a lot of things that I don't know. This actually will be put into the oven for C-pop and gel because I'm not afraid of that melt and pour melting. I think it might make it look cool. Let's check it out. Okay, now on to the cut of this. And as promised earlier, the thing that takes the most time is going to be the cutting. And as we can see, I don't detect any signs that any of those little curlicues don't take a shot every time I say curlicue today. I don't see that any of them melted. So, yay! But also, we still do have some problems with all of this because the melt and pour curlicues, shit, were a little bit taller than 2 inches. And so they're hanging out of the top of the soap, all annoying like, right? And so I'm gonna have to clean that shit up. And that it like actually is annoying. I don't like that. I would rather have thicker soaps than, not, and have to take out my little acrylic thingy. What the hell is that thing called? From Alex's custom soap stamps? The planer? Planer. That's what it's called, you guys. It's called a planer. Yay, me. I'm going to have to take it out again, is the point, and clean up the tops of all of these. And that's just more work. And that's stupid. And I don't like that. So I'm not super happy with myself right now, but it's cool. It's still it's going to be a cute bar of soap, I'm sure. But the real design will be inside of all of it. And we will check that out. And that will be the quote unquote pretty side. But I always have such a hard time, because I like to stamp the ugly side. You know what I mean? But when you look at your soaps, it's like, well, which side is the ugly side? And I don't know. I have no idea. But aren't those cute? The answer is yes. Those are very cute. It's confetti. It's the glitter on the floor after the party. It's Taylor Swift. I mean, those are two different songs. Champagne Problems and New Year's Day. Those are two completely different songs. But my brain is Taylor Swift, like at all times. That's just what I do. And so it's that. That was the inspiration for this soap when I designed it for A Drop in the Ocean, because she said she wanted something that smelled like champagne, right? And I'm pretty sure I told you the essential oil blend for what this is, because again, this is a vegan, eco-friendly, we don't mess with scents like fragrances. We only mess with essential oils for her company. Pretty sure I told you what those essential oils were last year when I did these. So go back and watch that. Go back and watch all of year one. Do you know that there are the entirety, the whole last line, of which there is a playlist? And I did weird drunk history with Taylor Swift, wherein I was still finding my feet or whatever, and didn't really know if people would be okay with me mostly not talking about the soap and just talking about whatever I wanted to. And so I was a little bit awkward and it was whatever, but that was fun. The drunk history of Taylor Swift. Most of those videos have less than 500 views right now. And that kills me, because that whole series to this day, probably my favorite. And the weird things that I say within it, always a good time. Anytime I'm doing a theme, you can just expect at this point that I'm just going to say a whole lot of weird things and maybe cry. On camera where you can see my face, but also within the audio wherein you can't, but you can still tell that I'm crying. Because that's just become my shtick. But the T-Swizzle stuff, yeah, go back and watch all of that. Also, go back and watch last year's if you want to know how I made a, mix, a concoction of essential oils smell like champagne. Pretty proud of that guy, actually. I'm not telling you now. And I'm not telling you now to be a dick and to encourage you to go, watch my old content. Although you should do so. I would appreciate it. But I'm not telling you right now because I don't know. It's not in front of me, and you could There is no way you could bribe me with a million, bajillion, quadrillion dollars, and at this exact moment, I still would not be able to remember what I use to make this champagne scent via essential oils. I'm sorry. I'm really not being a dick. I don't remember. Now you see all the little pieces that I'm shaving off. I actually cut this thing about 18 hours after I poured it, and it was therefore still soft enough for me to clean up all the edges, but also use all the little shavings that I'm cutting off to fill in any sort of holes that may exist after the cut. Now, that does not mean that we're done with this, because we still have a number of bars that need to be cleaned up on the top because of the aforementioned melt and pour being taller than what the actual batch allowed. Now, I could have fixed that by putting more of the little curlicues in, because God knows I had more. And the more of the melt and pour that you put into a hybrid soap, the higher the level rises, right? So I could have done that, but I didn't, because I didn't want to. That was the whole reason. And so I think this actually works really well, and it's very pretty and not too terribly full of the little curlicue things. Now, a lot of people have asked me about the curlicues and if you can use other things to make them. And the answer to that is yes, you can. You can use a reasonably malleable cold process recipe. Well, that's delightful. Kind of like a soap dough, right? And you can make it out of that as well. But I didn't do that for reasons that you're going to learn in about a week when we start the Grey's Anatomy bars. And it's going to be very embarrassing. And I'm going to ask you guys for your assistance in kind of big ways throughout all of that, because I lost something that was very important to me, and I have the footage and the information somewhere on this channel, but I've got like almost 600 videos at this point, so I didn't go look it up. So I'm probably going to ask you guys for your assistance, because it's a pretty big deal that I've lost this thing, and this thing is required to make soap dough. It's a recipe, you guys. I lost my soap dough recipe, and so therefore all of the Grey's Anatomy soaps, which are happily curing right now, and I can't wait to talk about. And by the soaps, I'm not super talking about the soaps. I'm going to super talk about Grey's Anatomy and the characters. But I couldn't find my soap dough recipe, and the former soapprentice, Georgia May, totally would have known where it was. But I didn't want to bother her, because I made these soaps, like, you know, during the holiday season. I didn't want to bother her. So that's also why I did it this way too, with the melt and pour. Also, this is just easier because melt and pour is right there, and it's easy enough to do the thing. And sometimes you don't have soap dough. And I didn't have soap dough, but you can use it. You can use soap dough to make these as well. And that could be fun. And yes, you can make bigger swirls. That's also fun. But all of these bars, super gorgeous. And I'm not showing you the slicing off with the acrylic planer guy thing with this, because it got kind of long and my camera lost store. It's all a thing. Whatever, you guys. It's the end of the year. You don't expect me to be, you know, on my game at the end of 2021, do you? 2021 was weird. But, you know, there's a cool bar of soap. Hybrid soaps. You should try them. That's day 207. It's not a hybrid soap unless you put a melt and pour and a cold process together. And there it is, the champagne bar for one of my wholesale accounts to ring in the new year in the right way. And I'm totally here for that. Super duper cute. Hybrid soaps, super duper fun. And they're all just different and beautiful and amazing and very unique. And so I always really love doing, you know, pours like this. So there's that. And you got to see that thing in action. For sure. If you are interested in making the melt and pour base for it, as I discussed in the video, yeah, I have one of those guys. I think I have at least two of those guys. Melt and pour recipe from scratch. You should check it out for sure. If you're interested in more daily content, all of the jazz, click the subscribe button, do the things, become a sudser. That would be excellent. For those of you who are sudsers, hey, you're excellent. Thank you so much. I hope your Christmas was great yesterday. Hope your day after Christmas, your Boxing Day, is great today. Hope you're just having so much greatness. Because we are. It's been a lot of fun. I am out of here for today. I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of soapy fun. Bye.